I believe that in 10 years from now, the role of the dollar will be much, much less than it is today. And in 20 years, we'll have a very different international monetary system. And the U.S. will have lost what was called by de Gaulle an exorbitant privilege, but it will have lost the privilege of having the key currency in the world. I think there are three reasons for this decline that will come, that's already underway. One is that to be the world currency depends on being the predominant economy in the world. And as the U.S. share of the world economy diminishes, it's natural that the role of the U.S. dollar would diminish as well. And we are, as I said, on a gradual, gentle decline, not gentle, but gradual decline of the share of world output due to the U.S., not mainly because of the U.S. collapse, but mainly because the rest of the world develops economically, like China. So that's one reason. The second reason is much more pertinent to this evening, and that is the U.S. began to weaponize the dollar roughly a decade ago. So it basically began to use the dollar as a geopolitical instrument. And my advice is, if you are a government that isn't getting along too well with the U.S., hold your reserves in some other currency. Because the U.S. has developed a bad habit of seizing foreign exchange reserves of governments that it doesn't like. And it has done that with Venezuela, with Iran, with Afghanistan, with North Korea, and now with Russia. It views that as an easy thing to do. Stroke of a pen by the president, and your antagonist, your foe, can't use their dollars anymore. We even did that with Afghanistan on the way out, froze all the foreign exchange reserves so that the economy completely collapsed in that impoverished place afterwards. It's nasty, by the way. But more than being nasty, it also is not something you can do over and over again, because other countries start to say, maybe we'll hold our reserves in renminbi, thank you, or maybe we'll hold them in some other currency, thank you. And that's what's happening now. So that's a second reason for why the dollar will decline, because it's not just a money, it's an instrument of geopolitics, which it should not be. You can have one or the other, but you can't have the geopolitical instrument for very long. You won't have the key currency anymore. And the third is technological. I think that transactions will not be settled through commercial banks in the future in anything like the way they are now, because we will have digital central bank currencies. And we don't need the commercial banks in the long term to settle our transactions. Probably the digital renminbi will be a first digital currency, probably for use within China, but then it will start to be expanded internationally. Several other central banks will make digital currencies. This is quite different from crypto. Crypto is you have an electronic account that's nonsense and you think it's going to hold value. It's every day I wake up, sorry to say if you're Bitcoin lovers, every day that Bitcoin has any value at all, I think the world's still crazy. So Bitcoin has no intrinsic value, and it's not a legal reserve currency for anything, and it's not a legal means of payment, and it's not a national fiat currency which can at least settle your debts internally. It's unbelievable that people spend money for this electronic cipher. And this arrest of this kid in the United States should tell you this is a little crazy. But what I'm talking about is something else, which is a central bank currency, because a digital central bank currency is just a means of clearing payments rather than writing checks like we used to do, or even making electronic ledgers through Venmo we use in the United States and so forth. whichever e-wallet system you use, the central bank can do that, actually. And I think that we'll go to that kind of settlements. And so the U.S. ability to say, we're going to cut you off from SWIFT, so what? So I think in 10 years or 15 years from now, it'll be quite a different international monetary system.
And my question is, what is your vision of the role of Russia in the future in the conflict of US and China? Thank you very much.
The role of
Russia in the conflict between the US and China.
the role of Russia in the conflict. Look, basically, much of the world, as I say, is going to have trade relations with China because why not? It's a good trading partner.